So as you can see, these are the files which are recorded using the voice recorder of Windows, but the gain, the volume level of these files is really terrible. And I want to fix this problem using Python. But before that, let me show you the before and after. Scary. No scampering or scaring. Understand, little chef? Scary. No scampering or scaring. Understand, little chef? So first of all, I need the path of this folder. So I copy this path, and for example, I call it root path. And I store that in a variable called root path, and I should put R before this string, and I paste the path of that folder. And if you don't know why I'm putting this R before this string, we have a video about this topic, which I will put the link to that video as well in the description below. So now I want to get the file names inside this path. So in order to do so, I want to use a package in Python. So I import the os, because this package has a function which I want to use, and that function is os.walk. It means that I want to walk into this root path. I want to go inside this root path and find all the files, folders, and these kinds of things inside this path. And now I want to pass this into the list function, because I want to have the list of files, folders, and these kinds of things. And then in order to access those files, the names of those files, I should use something like this, 0 and 2. But maybe you ask why? What is the reason of using these two things? Well, suppose that we have folders inside folders in this root path, which is called nested folders. Folders inside folders. And suppose that in those nested folders, there are some other files as well. So actually, os.walk is going to consider and list all of those things as well. All the files and all the folders inside those nested folders. But actually, we don't want that. So that's why we are passing 0. It means that we want all the things which are in the root path, in this specific path, and not in the nested folders. So that's why we are passing 0. But maybe you ask why we are passing this 2. Well, basically the output of this piece of code is 3 things. Number 1, the path itself. Number 2, the folders inside this path. And number 3, the files inside this path. And as you know, Python starts counting at 0. So this is the 0th element, this is the element at index 1, and this is the element at index 2. So if we want to access the files, we should pass 2. But anyway, the topic of this video is not os.walk function. If you want to learn more about it, I will put the link to one of my videos about os.walk, which I will put the link to that video in the description below. Anyway, so these are going to be the file names inside this path. So let's store them in a variable, and let's name that file names. And also let's print the file names variable, because maybe you want to get a better sense of the things which we have stored in the file names variable. So if I run the code, you can see these are all the things, all the file names inside this path. So as you can see, this file names variable is actually a list of all the things, all the files inside that folder. Well, basically this first one is the file name, and this one is the extension of that file. So I want to loop through each element inside this file names variables. So in order to do so, I simply type for file name and extension. Yeah, and I agree that this is a long name, but I want to make it more readable. That's why I'm using a long name like this one. So anyway, I say for file name and extension in file names, but now we want to split these file names based on this extension. As you can see, the first part is the file name itself, and also the second part is this extension. So in order to do so, that's very easy. You can simply type file name and extension, this one, dot split, because we want to split, and we want to split based on that extension, dot M4A. And we want the 0th element. What do I mean by 0th element? Because as you can see, when we split this thing based on this extension, the first element would be this one, and the second element would be the extension. So actually, we want the first element, which is the element at index 0, which is the file name itself. So we store that in a variable, let's say called file name. And it's very obvious that the file extension is M4A. And now we want to define the full path, and we want to access the full path of each of those files because we need that for reading those audio files. So that's very easy. We can simply type os.path.join. And first of all, we want to join the root path, which is the folder of each of those files. And also we want to join the file name and extension, which we have here. As you can see, this is the folder of those files, and this is the file name and extension of those files. So this is going to make the full path of those files. And we store this one, for example, this piece of code, the output of this piece of code into a variable. For example, let's call this variable input path. That's it. So based on this input path, we want to read each of these audio files. So in order to do so, we need to use a package in Python, a module in Python, which is called pydob. So I simply type from pydob, I want to import audio segments. And remember that you should install this pydob package using pip install pydob. And also remember that you should have installed the ffmpeg on Windows as well. So if you don't have ffmpeg on Windows, so you should install that. And I have a video for this topic, installing ffmpeg on Windows, which is very short. I think it is about 3 minutes. And I will put the link to that video in the description below. And now I simply type audio segments, and I want to use this function called from file because you want to get the audio from a file. And what is the path of that file? It is basically this input path, which we have defined earlier. So this is going to be the audio, but now I want to normalize this audio. What do I mean by normalize? Normalize means I want to increase the volume. I want to increase the gain of this audio file to a normal level. That is called normalize. Well, basically, normalize has a technical definition. I don't want to get into the technical definition of normalize, but that is a general picture of the meaning of normalize. You want to increase the gain of this audio file to a normal level. That's it. So here we simply type from pydob import effects, because in this sub module we have different things which you can use for applying different effects. And so here we simply type effects dot normalize because we want to normalize that audio, and after that we store the results in a variable, let's say called sound. And now we want to export and save this sound. In order to do so, we simply type sound dot export because you want to export this sound. And first of all, we should path the output path. So as you can see, we should define another variable called output path as well. So that's very easy. We simply type os.path.join. And again, we want that file to be in this location. So we want to, first of all, join the root path. And also we want to join the file name plus, for example, mp3, because, for example, suppose that in this time I want to export those files in mp3 format. That's it. So I simply type .mp3, and here I simply pass that output path, and also I should specify the format as well. So the format is going to be mp3. Okay, now we are ready to run the program, but before running the program, let me show you the folder. So as you can see, these are our files, which are M4A files. And now if I run this code, and if I go to this path, you can see we have added these MP3 files, which are the versions of these files, which I have increased the gain and the volume of these files into a normal level. And here are 2 videos which I suggest you to watch as well. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this.